Hi, everyone, and thank you for the beautiful gift of this series and another wonderful season.
Thank you. Lovely to
Um,
hear.
what was that, Tim?
Lovely to hear that.
Good. No, it's lots of tears, lots of laughter. Um, and I mean, we haven't met before, Tim. It's something that I've sort of perhaps touched on with Jeff and Murray, but of course there's been another season since then. But it's so rare that we get to see queer folks on screen living outside of a big city. And I just wondered what it's like for each of you to portray these characters living their lives in, a small town, rural community.
Tim, that's for you because you
Oh,
haven't met James yet.
okay. Well, I love the idea. I grew up in Michigan, so and as when I grew up, it was, when I reached puberty and was going through all this discovery about who I am, in the DSM-3, it was still considered a mental illness to be a homosexual. So I just knew whatever I was going to do, it wasn't going to be in Michigan. So I moved to LA, and I think most people back then would move to LA or New York or San Francisco. And and so to me, the idea of seeing this in a small town is really beautiful. And I've thought a lot about, like, I read a couple of Pete Buttigieg's books and Chasten Buttigieg, and about what that was like for them to be in the Midwest and navigate their way in this relationship, and so openly and publicly. And I think that it's beautiful. And as far as the relationship, with our characters, Brad and Joel, I think it's unusual to see people our age kind of in a romantic situation like that. And so, and I'm quite a bit older than Jeff, but I mean, to see this kind of relationship and the complexities, is something that I haven't really been able to play yet. And so for me, it's been a real joy to kind of explore that and explore that part of myself, with Jeff in these roles. It's been really very gratifying.
Anything you'd like to add to that, Murray or Jeff?
Well, I would just say, because I am so much younger than Tim.
Yeah, everybody
Decades.
is.
Decades.
Yes, they are. What can I tell you?
But what I would say is, I know people like Joel. I know people who are openly gay and who find community in church and find community in the community that they grew up in. And I love that their stories are being told, and that they're the main story of the show. It's such a beautiful thing that isn't shown that often. I love that.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that I think it's radical, and I do. My whole act, as you know, you've seen some shows, is I try to find the connection and the humanity with the audience, and first, and then I hit them with the message. And I feel like this show is radical in that Jeff was just saying it shows us as three-dimensional people that argue over dishwashers, over eating junk food, playing catch, making fun of each other, taking dumps. It shows us as full three-dimensional people that we're not just fun and fabulous all the time.
And I think it is a great tribute to people that don't move to the big city. As you were saying before, in previous times, it really felt like the only choice if we wanted to live openly. But I think through this show and another HBO show, We're Here, we see people
Oh,
what it's
yeah.
like for folks who stay, right where they are. And although like might be challenging, why should they have to leave?
And
So.
it's really rewarding to be able to tell that story, knowing that there are people there living, their lives out in these small places, small towns. So I find it very rewarding.
There was a recent study about the epidemic of loneliness in the United States, and it found that it wasn't the result of us not having friends, and that most people have 4 to 5 friends, but it was more the result of us not forming deep relationships with those friends. And I think that somebody somewhere just really exemplifies how important it is for us to do that and to be open and vulnerable with each other, however hard that might be. And I just wondered if you could each maybe yeah, talk about that in that context. Jeff, would you like to start us off?
Yeah. It's all about found family, right? It's not just friendships. It's like I love that they have Thanksgiving together. I love that that deepness and that bonding is there. And I feel like it is so important. It is so rare. And it does take a lot of vulnerability to be able to do that, to put yourself out there and be willing to do that. And I feel like in a certain way, our cast has done that too, because we do shoot on location. And so every Saturday night we go to Bridget's house and we have, margaritas, and we bond. It almost tips into bondage, but just before that. And it's so beautiful and so important. And I love that science told us that too.
Well, you know what, James? I think a lot of from our generation. I'm not, I'm not as old as Tim, but from our generation, loneliness. I think for a queer community can also the word also can be isolated, like the isolation. Like you're lonely because you don't feel like there are other people like you, and you don't feel safe, so that makes you feel isolated. So I think this chosen family, how we started in the first season to where we are now, it's like we all became lonely together. And then season 3, everybody, including Tim at his age and Jeff and Sam, we all were actually able to expand on feelings of isolation and not feel isolated. And, we were all friends, but now we have a deeper inner life than when everybody first started the first show. That's all.
One thing that I feel like I have in common with my character Brad is I've always felt kind of like I'm on this journey on my own, like this when I left my hometown and came out to LA, and I've just kind of walked this life, but I've made such good friends along the way that are lifelong friends that are family to me. And I have, a lot of them, and I just can't imagine, like I couldn't be in a relationship with somebody that didn't understand that some of these friendships, are long-term and really important for me to spend one-on-one time with them. And so I don't know. I don't really feel loneliness in my life, but I certainly have. But I feel like Brad was kind of when what happened, what comes out in this season, and he's kind of alone for a while. But I feel that it only makes him even more grateful and surprised to meet Joel. And then all of a sudden, it's just this wonderful thing that he's very happy about. And then to be welcomed into Joel's world and his friends, I think that feels very authentic and very real.
And I love the scenes that Brad has with Sam when she's helping him come up with the love song with
Yeah.
Joel. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about doing those scenes with Bridget, and then for Murray and Jeff, what it was like to witness the result in that beautiful scene.
To me, when I kind of was thinking about approaching that scene, I think it's the scene that kind of bonds Sam and Brad, and it's you know, she helps him, and to play with her, um, I will never forget the way she was looking at me when we were shooting it. The way she was looking at me, it just was so moving, and so I just feel like I feel like it felt to me very authentic that this was a friend, you know, helping me. And and so I don't know, it was fun, you know, I mean it was a fun thing to shoot, but to me, that whole scene is all about, you know, Bridget and then looking at Joel's face, and he was so loving, and I don't know, it was a lot of sensory coming towards me, more than my little head is used to handling.
But also
Yeah.
he to speak about him as if he's not here on the Zoom, but
Oh, he's here all right.
yeah, but Tim was so raw in that scene, and you know, on the page, it made it seem like he was like, "I'm scared to sing, I'm scared to sing," and but then to see the emotion that he infused into it, um, it told an entirely different story, a story about so much pain, so many emotions that he's been bottling in, so much a fear of being completely vulnerable again after he's been so injured previously, which are things we learn about in this season. And I just felt like everything about Tim's performance in that scene was just knocked it out of the field.
Thank
You know, the
Thank
sports
you.
reference, good.
Yeah, good
Good.
sports reference.
Knock it out of the park is the reference, Jeffrey.
I know, I kind of knew that.
James, do you go to therapy? Because you're gay. You probably do, right?
I probably should, but
Oh, you
yeah,
haven't?
no.
All right, I knew there was something wrong with you. Well, in therapy, there's this thing called transference. And when transference happens, that's when it's working. And I feel like in that scene, I've had this happen a couple of times in somebody somewhere. Like when I did the scene with Sam's dad in the first season, you know, it's this weird thing that happens where I it's like I don't it's like it's transference, because I actually am in that moment and I'm believing everything that is happening, like that it's actually real, because it's acting and it's written. So when Tim was doing that scene, you know, and Jeff was reacting and Sam was reacting, I was there like, you know, I was feeling it like it was actually happening, like transference. I wasn't thinking about, you know what? There's no ventilation in this room. There's no air conditioning in this room. It's hot as fucking hell in this tiny little room where he's singing. I wasn't thinking any of that. I was like, oh man, this is deep. This is moving. Transference, James. You should try it.
It's been such a healing and comforting show to watch, and as we sadly say goodbye to it, it's bittersweet because it's the final season. What has it meant to each of you to be part of this series and to put it out in the world? Murray,
All
start.
right, I got it, because there's clearly silence from these two. Is I got a lot out of it, like a lot of the normal stuff that you would think. But and I said this to the guys before, you know, for me, I felt validated by the gatekeepers. And you know, the gatekeepers has changed over the years, and it's kind of going back, you know, it's we won't go there, but you know, so the fact that HBO, which is the fucking holy grail, you know, allowed this story to be told collectively, all of us, but then me personally, as you know, this gender kind of ambiguous trans guy that you're not really kind of sure, but they just show him as a person. and it leads with the heart and the humanity. And I think what I take away is that that's a very rare opportunity, and I'm glad I got it. That's it.
And I would say, obviously, career-wise, it's huge, and artistically, it's huge. Before this, I never played characters that had names. They were just professions, you know, waiter, florist.
Oh, a waiter?
Yeah, exactly. I played a lot of waiters. But beyond that, it feels so good to be a part of a show that when people watch it, they feel seen, they feel hope, they address the fact that they're lonely and that we can talk about being lonely. It just feels like a show that's important, and it's a show that I would watch even if I weren't on it. It's just a show that's beautiful, and I feel so proud. I feel so proud to be associated with it at all.
Somebody somewhere is a weighted blanket.
That is exactly what I was going to say, is that I feel pride in doing this show, and it's there's a kindness about it that we don't see often, and you know, a simple kind of kindness and empathy, and I just really appreciate that, combined with, you know, the heart of that combined with comedy, that makes it, you know, funny and kind of beautiful. So for me, I'm just really thrilled and proud to be a part of this offering.
Tim, Murray, Jeff, thanks for a wonderful conversation and a really
That's it?
beautiful series.
Thanks, James. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for
James, we'll see you soon at Joe's or something.
Yes, I like that ending to it. That's it? You want more?
Well, James, we like talking to you.
The holiday show will be around soon. Looking
Yeah,
forward
text
to
me, I'll get you tickets,
Hopefully
okay?
we'll all be there.
Thank you, James.